What is this reality? What is you? And can Hyperianism mathematically explain our reality? The answer is a solid maybe. After several days of research, I've decided to summarize the Hyperion ideology. And just maybe at the end of this, you'll be able to incorporate some of the teachings of Hyperianism into your own belief structure. Or just throw it away. It's up to you. There's no time like the present. This is a highly controversial video. Please take everything I say here with a pound of salt. This video contains the teachings of former reality TV star and shock artist who goes by the name of Morg. That said, as someone who's casually observed Morg for years now, his research is highly in tune with the Gnostic Illuminati rabbit hole I've come to discover. I am not here to convince you of anything. I am here to document information. That said, please proceed at your own discretion. Hyperianism is a belief that reality is not physical, but rather non-material. Matter is usually defined as something that is mind independent, meaning that it can exist without mind. However, everything we experience and think goes through our mind and cognitive faculties, making it impossible to show that matter is independent from mind. Therefore, the belief that reality is only physical takes a greater leap of faith than believing that reality is non-material. The Greek philosopher Pythagoras, the same mathematician that made the Pythagorean theorem, he knew that this was a mathematical reality. He said, "All is number, and numbers rule the universe." In addition to knowing that this is a mathematical reality, Pythagoras also believed in reincarnation. The reason why I'm bringing this up is because the link between mathematics and reincarnation is critical. You need to understand that what you truly are isn't physical, but mathematical. This is what's going to tie everything together. Your physical body is just an avatar. You are a necessary system of evolving mathematical energy patterns. You could call this a soul, but it doesn't have anything to do with a creator god, faith, or mysticism. Morg writes, "You as a soul, as an eternal mind, are a system of mathematical frequency patterns, a system of living, eternal thought." In order to understand Hyperianism, you must first understand some incredibly mind-blowing phenomenon that has actually been scientifically proven. The first phenomenon is called the double slit experiment. Reality behaves differently when observed.
When we throw things, that is, matter, through two slits, we get this, two bands of hits. And with waves, we get an interference pattern of many bands. Good so far. Now, let's go quantum. An electron is a tiny, tiny bit of matter, like a tiny marble. Let's fire a stream through one slit. It behaves just like the marble, a single band. So, if we shoot these tiny bits through two slits, we should get, like the marbles, two bands. What? An interference pattern. We fired electrons, tiny bits of matter through. We get a pattern like waves, not like little marbles. How? How could pieces of matter create an interference pattern like a wave? It doesn't make sense. But physicists are clever. They thought, maybe those little balls are bouncing off each other and creating that pattern. So, they decide to shoot electrons through one at a time. There is no way they can interfere with each other. But after an hour of this, the same interference pattern is seen to emerge. The conclusion is inescapable. The single electron leaves as a particle, becomes a wave of potentials, goes through both slits, and interferes with itself to hit the wall like a particle. But mathematically, it's even stranger. It goes through both slits, and it goes through neither. And it goes through just one, and it goes through just the other. All of these possibilities are in superposition with each other. Physicists were completely baffled by this. So they decided to peek and see which slit it actually goes through. They put a measuring device by one slit to see which one it went through and let it fly. But the quantum world is far more mysterious than they could have imagined. When they observed, the electron went back to behaving like a little marble. It produced a pattern of two bands, not an interference pattern of many. The very act of measuring, or observing, which slit it went through meant it only went through one, not both. The electron decided to act differently, as though it was aware it was being watched.
Everything we call real is made of things that cannot be regarded as real. Niels Bohr. All things in our universe are constantly in motion, vibrating. Even objects that appear to be stationary are in fact vibrating, oscillating, resonating at various frequencies. Resonance is a type of motion characterized by oscillations between two states, and ultimately, all matter is just vibrations of various underlying fields. As such, at every scale, nature vibrates. The 5 basic human senses that we use to understand our world are touch, sight, hearing, smell, and taste. These are all the ways our body measures and interprets frequency. Without tools, these senses are the only way one can interpret their own reality. Let's take the example of sight. Light is a frequency. When pure light hits an object, some of that frequency is absorbed into the object. The leftover frequency is reflected outwards. When that leftover frequency hits your eye, it's seen as color. In this case, the color is green, or what we think of as green. The same thing is true with sound. The ringing of a doorbell is also just frequency, a frequency that your ear measures and interprets into sound. Taste, touch, and smell are more complex in their description, but follow the same principle. If you break down things to their fundamental level, everything is moving, everything is vibrating. And when you combine these frequencies together, you get your experience, you get your reality. The true base of our reality is frequency. Nothing more, nothing less. It is a greater leap of faith to believe that reality is material. It is impossible to show that matter exists independently of our mind. All our experiences and thoughts go through our mind, and without experiences and thoughts, matter can't exist. In Hyperianism, it is fundamentally flawed to use our observations to define reality, as reality is nothing more than an illusion of the senses. This suggests that we must break down what's actually going on through the principle of sufficient reason. In his video, What is a Thought Made Of? The Secrets of Thought Explained, Morg uses the principle of sufficient reason to demonstrate how Hyperianism comes to the mathematical conclusion that reality is zero, that reality is nothing. To understand what thought is, we have to look at existence and the universe. Existence and thought are intimately related, and to begin our inquiry, we have to use reason. Morg's reasoning goes as follows. There has to be a mechanism to which something occurs. A ball doesn't just roll across the floor magically for no reason. We have to go back before the Big Bang. We have to start before that, when there was nothing at all. The reasoning goes as follows. Nothing equals zero. To understand this, we have to go back to the state before time began, before matter was created. This was the zero state, the ground state, ground zero. It is the dominion of pure mathematics. We must start with absolute nothingness. Nothing equals zero. Zero is equal to 1 minus 1. We can use reason to understand that 0 is equal to 1 minus 1, which represents a unity of opposites. This means 0 can take on many different structures, such as 2 minus 2, 3 minus 3, 4 minus 4, and 5 minus 5. 0, weirdly, can also be infinitely complex. 0 is a unity of opposites. According to Morg, 0 is structured like a computer programming code, where information is ordered logically rather than spatially or temporally. To account for every possible way that 0 can be rationally constructed, imaginary numbers must also be included too. Imaginary numbers are a type of number that exists in mathematics. If we are using a complex plane to represent how information is structured and ordered, the imaginary unit I would fall in the positive and negative vertical axes. Complex numbers are purely mathematical in nature and are used as a tool in quantum mechanics equations. Imaginary numbers cannot be related to physical objects, as there is nothing in the physical world that can be directly related to the number I. In Hyperianism, I is associated with time. Reason and nothing are equal to 0. But really, nothingness and 0 are equivalent to a vast multiplicity of circles, each with their different amplitudes. The circle is structural information. We can unpack 0 and realize that it's made up of the unity of two waves, a real cosine wave and imaginary sine wave. These two waves add up to 0 when added together in one cycle. This is all done without breaking nothingness or reason. And these waveforms are frequencies all equal to 0. The equation of Euler's formula, also known as source formula. Thought is structured information that resolves to 0. It is not made of anything physical or material, but instead structured according to reason. We have arrived at frequencies in a relationship and structure of information by starting with nothing and reason. It's Mr. Meeseeks, look at me! Okay, this is really complicated, but one of Morg's subscribers came up with an easier way to think about it. Think of sand as thoughts, and the sandcastles as space-time structures. Imagine a whole sand world with sand people, sand cars, etc. Just like any other structure in the world, it can be broken down into its individual units of sand. In this case, thought is the individual grains of sand, and all of the sand particles together create our reality. The Fourier series is a summation of harmonically related sinusoidal functions resulting in a periodic function whose form is determined by period, number of components, and their amplitudes and phase parameters. It can approximate any periodic function, and its components are determined by analysis techniques. It can also be used to synthesize an unknown function by a Fourier series. The Fourier analysis is a way to break down reality into its constituent sinusoids and frequencies, which can be combined to give rise to all reality. Our minds are just containers of frequency. When we dream at night, we are exploring the space-time world created by these frequencies. The external world that we experience is the result of all the frequencies mixing and interacting together. In order to change and shape the outer world, we need to understand and control all of the frequencies that make up the collective dream. However, our individual frequency contribution is minuscule compared to the collective. So without a lot of work, we can't make drastic changes to the external world. Waves that lie on the axis are complete and pure forms of either sine or cosine waves. Space and time are associated with partiality and a fractured viewpoint. When we introduce phase into the waveforms and thoughts, it gives rise to a fractured view because the wave is now a combination of two other fractured waves. And now we get into the Gnostics, which is my personal favorite. In the symbolic Gnostic story of Sophia and Yaldabaoth, Sophia is part of the divine mind, which structures itself like a unit circle. This waveform gives birth to Yaldabaoth, the Lord of Matter, showing how the waveform is fractured and imperfect. Nothing equals 0, which is equal to the unity of opposites, 1 minus 1, 3 minus 3, 5 minus 5. Imaginary numbers, represented as I, are also included in this equation, which creates an infinite amount of circles that resolve to 0. The circle is structural information and is chosen over the square because it is more compatible with reason, as all points on the circle are equal distance from the origin. In Hyperianism, there are 3 perspectives. These perspectives are known as the triad. The first perspective is the avatar perspective. This references the perspective of the body and its physical needs. From this perspective, you are concerned with all things related to your body, your hunger, your physical pain, all perspectives needed in order to survive physically. The second perspective is the monadic perspective. This is the perspective of the soul, the internal mind. It's very important to distinguish that this is not the brain. It is the mind. Your monad is your mind. It links to the brain. And the brain, counterintuitively, acts to filter out some reality. Monads are a system of mathematical energy composed of many interacting structures, some of which are conscious and some of which are unconscious. These unconscious structures are called archetypes and were first introduced to psychology by Carl Jung. Archetypes are powerful structures in the unconscious which direct and control your life. They can be thought of as like a program that runs in the background. They have their own wills, desires, wants, and needs. They can be thought of like having their own personalities. This suggests that we are composed of multiple selves and personalities, which can conflict and contradict. Think about your intuition. You speak and conflict with your intuition. Sometimes your intuition wants you to do one thing, and you end up doing the other. This is a part of the monadic perspective. Which leads us to our final perspective, the absolute perspective, which is essentially all the monadic perspectives combined, as represented by this circle. All monads linked together. This is the perspective of our shared reality. According to Hyperianism, two realities exist. The first reality is the reality that you experience while you're dreaming. This is your local reality. In Hyperianism, our dreams are simply a local reality. This reality is generated from the monadic perspective. In this reality, our ability to manifest is immediate. Think about your dreams. Where exactly do they come from? Why do they feel so real? Why do most of us not even realize we're dreaming until we wake up? The second reality is the reality that you experience while you are awake. The real world is also known as the absolute perspective. So you're probably thinking to yourself, that's cool, but what's the point of Hyperianism? Hyperianism seeks to create a new humanity that is conscious of their higher self and transforms them into the living archetype known as the inner star. Inner star actualization is the process of exploring the unconscious depths of one's being to uncover the hidden forces and develop a healthy mind that can discover purpose. This process combines hemispheric integration, Jungian individualization, depth psychology, ontological mathematics, and understanding that we are internal minds. But the goal of life is to find purpose and to become one's true self. The ego is the center of your field of consciousness, your sense of identity and self-awareness. The persona is the mask that the ego wears to interact with society. To visualize the various structures of a monad, the circle represents the totality of you as a complete whole, with the smaller circle representing your conscious awareness and the rest of the circle representing your unconscious. According to the Hyperion ideology, inner star actualization is a process that develops deep into the subconscious. The three major archetypes of the unconscious are the shadow self, the mirror self, and the power self. The shadow self is composed of the parts of the ego that society deemed unacceptable. It can contain personal flaws, insecurities, as well as creativity, individuality, sexuality, and willpower. The mirror self is the most important archetype to integrate, and it is the union of the left and right hemisphere of the brain, the unification of masculine and feminine qualities, and the bridge between the world of the unconscious and conscious. The power self is the inner core of the unconscious that contains one's authentic self and is the source of true power and potential. When the inner star becomes lucid in this world, you can shape the collective dream and be transformed into a powerful archetype that will have a lasting impact in the absolute perspective or collective reality. Okay, time for the outro. Okay, so that was just a brief overview of the Hyperianism ideology. If you're curious and you want to learn more about this, I would highly recommend checking out Morg's channel, linked in the description below. Before you go there though, I personally don't fully subscribe to the idea of Hyperianism. While I have deep respect for Morg's research into the occult, I would personally advise caution. There has been a lot of people that have come out against Hyperianism, and in order to respect them as well, I just want to give a word of caution. Morg has a lot to offer as far as the research of the occult, and he's probably one of my favorite people to watch casually. But please, take caution. Take caution. So what do you think? This is only my second video, but there are many more to come. I have a lot to cover. There are a lot of conspiracies that are not talked about, and I plan on covering all of them until I die. So please, if you think I'm doing even an okay job with these videos, like and subscribe. I'm a brand new channel and this is only my second video. The next video I have set up is about Tartaria and the Great Reset, and I am so excited to do it. So with that said, I have my links here. If you want to check out my Odyssey, Rumble, Twitter, whatever, you don't have to, but if you want to, they're there. And I hope you have a wonderful day. This is Squeeebe Conspiracy. Okay, bye.